Hi, I am an Akashic channeler, and if you don't know what that is, stay tuned because today we're going to talk about all the technical things that are usually asked about. What are the Akashic Records? What can we learn from them? How do we know they're there? What is it that they are meant to do? And just basically the questions that you would want to ask someone. Here it is. And if there's anything else that you need to know, like and subscribe for part 2 because there is much more cool stories that I have about this. So here's that.
What if I told you nothing is ever truly lost? Memories, experiences, and lives. A place where all knowledge and existence is kept. The Akashic Records. A library of light. If you want to find out what secrets it holds, come with me to remember what was lost. Welcome to the Open Record.
What are the Akashic Records? So today we're going to dive into my personal experience with them because everyone's experience is going to be different. Remember, anybody can do this. This used to be something that only specific, mostly trained energetical masters could access this information. But the veil around our world and the consciousness of humanity has been racing to such a degree that every day more and more people can hold more of the frequency of truth. So according to the Hinduistic Cosmology, which is founded by the rishis, which is also a word for seer or sage, we are made up of 5 elements, which is Ap, water, Prithvi, which is earth, Agni, which is fire, Vata, which is air, and Akasha, which is ether. In the Upanishads, it is said that Akasha is not merely empty space, but rather the more subtle, invisible medium into which material forms arise from and then later dissolve into. This literally says that everything comes from and returns to the ether, to the Akasha. The best way that I could describe how everything comes from the ether would be how in order to create in the exterior world, so a building or a painting, we would first have an imprint in our minds, an idea, a concept of what we want to create, and then we would bring forth to reality. I think that's the best way I can explain Akasha being the origin of everything in order for it to first exist in the physical world. So anything that has a physical form can be read through Akashic Records, not just human beings and animals. So for example, any human has a physical body, but that physical body has an energy copy of it. That energy copy is what you go on to read in an Akashic record. It is called the Akashic body. So when you connect to someone's Akashic records, what you're doing is reading the Akashic body of someone that is so sensitive that records any minute change in thought, feeling, sensation, and story that is around our physical body. So you can understand the level and degree of almost like perceptive ability that this record is going to hold of your information. Music, conversations, places we visit, people we meet, all of these things are being constantly absorbed into this Akashic body, into this energy print of ourselves. So it's almost like a record of everything that we feel, that we've been through, of our story. And that is why the Akashic Records is said to be a library, a compendium of information of not just what you're living right now, not just what you lived in your past, but what you will live in your future, because this is where it gets very quantum physics. Everything is happening in the now. So the Akashic Records is actually a registry of everything that there is and that there will be. And not in a way to determine your future, but in a way that it presents all of the possibilities that you could be and that you are at once. So if you haven't seen that movie of Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, I invite you to watch it, because it is the closest I can get to explain how that would be possible. Another thing that is very important to understand is that consent is very important in the Akashic Records. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot read anyone's information or Akashic Records or anything's Akashic Records without their express consent. And I don't mean that the plant has to say yes. I just mean that you have to ask, and you will feel it in your body when you are allowed the information and when that is not for you. So one of the ways in which I have experienced this in my own practice and experiences is that I can be in someone's Akashic Records getting information that even they are asking for, and it will all of a sudden feel like there's a door closed. And it can either be because that person is not ready to understand that information, therefore it is not being granted by their own higher self, or that information can be about what they're asking, but not what they're allowed to know. So it's not that it's very strict, like somebody has to tell you, I allow you to see my information. It's just when someone would not want something to be known about them, you will feel it in someone's Akashic Records. They can be asking for themselves what it is that they're doing wrong in a relationship, and that person will not be able to see all of the picture, just what they need to understand, because maybe that other information pertains and belongs to someone else that needs to give their consent in order for you to know that. So it can happen like that. And sometimes you can ask about somebody else and they will give you that information because it's open and it's available for you. Another of the ways in which I've seen this is with myself. I'll be asking about myself and I'll get into a topic that has to do with a certain relationship or somebody, and all of a sudden I will feel almost like there's a boundary, like someone won't let me in to see what is really going on beyond whatever it was that I was talking about. So they'll tell me information, but they won't allow me to see much more than that. It's just still here. So it's a boundary. And that's very important to understand, because in these type of practices, consent is very important. So not only do I need to receive a person's consent before I give or I enter their Akashic Records, but I also need their complete name and their date of birth. It's almost like you need the barcode of the exact book sample that you are trying to reach in order to be allowed to read it. And then you need the express consent from that person for you to read that book. So it's not that easy. It's not just like going in and being like, let me look into all of these things and people and secrets. You can ask, but if it's not for you to know, you will receive a very clear boundary around what you're not meant to ask about. The reason why I got into Akashic Records wasn't aware of what I was doing. It was just seeking to learn more about my abilities, anything that was spiritual, and allowing me to gain connection with more than just what I was receiving at that point in my life. Because I had come to sort of like a barrier or a limit that I wasn't sure I was comfortable with religion. So I grew up Christian, and for most of my life, I tried to participate, believe, and grow my spiritual beliefs and my spiritual self in that structure. But there was something about it that just felt almost like limiting and restrictive. Like there was a specific set of rules that I had to follow in order to be either accepted or loved. It felt very conditional, and it wasn't what I had thought unconditional love and spirituality should feel like. So I think there was a curiosity there that wasn't really kind of clicking for me, especially after spending so many years trying to feel that connection. And it felt very eye-opening as soon as I delved into this world to understand the connection that I had with God through myself and not anything around me. It allowed me to connect to my power without it feeling like I was afraid of it. I think there's so much fear in religion around you being self-sustaining, empowered, and independent and free thinking. And for the first time, my doubts and my curiosity and all of the things that I was allowing to exist within me were not too much, but just enough. It was like there was space. It felt like there was a space to have all of those questions and give route and way to asking about life, and to asking about powerful things, and to asking about the history about the world. So all of a sudden there wasn't like a boundary, like you should know that, or that's not for you to know, that's not for you to find out. It was like, oh yeah, you want to find out, just ask. And it felt open. It felt like I had an open channel to God that wasn't in any way limiting the number of questions or the way that I asked those questions. It just felt open. And I wasn't expecting that much. I think I was just curious and I wanted to find out ways to connect with myself. You don't have to be something special in order to do it. I just found them because I had been kind of craving for a way to have that direct connection with God without somebody telling me that I was either too greedy for asking or too needy for wanting help and needing counsel so often, right? So it was my way of claiming that connection and power with God without guilt, because I think that there is a lot of that in religion as well, of the not too much and don't get too close and stuff like that. My first course was around a month long, and I think that was the first one that really woke me up. After a couple of years of kind of delving into that, I got into another course which was much longer. It was an 8-month course of Akashic channeling. This one is by Daniela Gil. So shout out to her, because she was my second Akashic teacher. And I learned a lot in those two courses. But what I most learned was the way to enter is unique to everyone. But the way that those two teachers and courses showed me to enter was with a prayer. Prayer really is the best way to describe the frequency that you're going to be tuning into. What eventually leads you to the thing that you're seeking is your frequency. And most of that is determined by your intention or what you're seeking to find. So it's very important to understand intention is the frequency designator of what you're going to find inside of there. I advise people to come with a set of questions and an intention before they go into their Akashic Records, because it's easier to get an answer, to get what you're trying to receive. When someone goes in there and they don't have any reason to, they don't feel called to do it, I feel it's a waste of energy. Like, if you're not really aware of the why, I would suggest that you spend more time on that, because we all have questions to ask, things we're curious about. And the kind of questions that you can ask if you want to know are things like not just about past lives, because I think it's a common misconception that you go to the Akashic Records basically to ask about your past lives. But you can ask about why someone in your family has a disease. You can ask about why you got sick or why something in your life doesn't seem to work out. So it can be money, it can be marriage. And a lot of the things that started to happen to me in the beginning of the Akashic Records was very overwhelming because of how fast it started to open up doors for me that I wasn't sure I was ready to open. Because the Akashic Records work like this, where it's like, since they work with the energy that is in your Akashic body, they have the ability to remove and connect those dots that you believe about yourself that either don't work for you or that you need to believe in order to advance to something that you want. Therefore, they work lightning fast. They are just in another frequency when it comes to wanting to see something or wanting clarification or to speed something up. It definitely did that to my life at the beginning, where it really worked with a lot of healing patterns that I wasn't sure that I was ready to receive information about, but that it just moved a lot of things so fast because it brought things to my awareness. And that's what I think most people don't understand. This place is a place to get to know yourself without a filter. So if you want someone to tell it to you straight, just like it is, that's one of the ways to do it. So you can literally ask, why is this not working in my life? How am I in my own way? And that's one of the most important things. If you don't want to know, don't find out. But once you know and you bring it to your awareness, you can't go back. So the responsibility is on you to fix and work on that thing once it is brought to your awareness. So that's one of the things that I most warn people about not having an intention or questions when going into the Akashic Records, is that sometimes you get more than you bargain for, because things that you weren't sure if you were ready to find out come into your awareness, and once it is yours to know, it is yours to fix. Because now you're not a victim to your situation. Now you have full control and you are aware of what you're doing wrong. So ignorance really is bliss when it comes to the Akashic Records. If you want to be responsible to get your own life in order, all you need to do is ask. But once you do, you have to be aware that it is in your hands. It is your awareness that brings power and the possibility to change it into your own hands. But once it's in your field, you can't take it out and you can't pretend you don't know. Like, oh, I didn't know that. That was a thing that I did with my parents. You can't blame it on them anymore. Before it was maybe asleep, but now it's completely in your awareness field. So you are responsible for that. And if it doesn't change, you know why, but it is there. Another of the things that is really important is that I say that each person is different because each person receives the information in different ways. So it depends on how you feel your own energies, because these are tied to psychic ability. So clairvoyance would be when you are more prone to receiving images, and clairsentience would be when you would kind of feel sensations of the body. So you can be reading someone's records and then all of a sudden you feel like a pain in a specific joint, or you feel heat in a specific part of the body, And this would be more clairsentience, which is tied most usually to clairvoyance. So if you have clairvoyant abilities, most likely you will have clairsentient abilities. And clairaudience would be when you would have this sort of like person or voice narrating anything that they're saying. So the information has to be said out loud, like spoken, almost like you're receiving it via your mouth. And what you seem to do is kind of trance channeling. So for me, it began very visual, very clairvoyance, and then it turned more clairaudience, where it would be kind of like a trance channeling, and I would all of a sudden just be speaking. And one of the things that I learned from my teacher at the beginning was that if you think that the thing that you're saying or speaking about or receiving is ridiculous, then it's most likely you're gonna block the channel. So you just flow with it. You gotta go with it. And this has such a connection to your own creative abilities. So how often do you block yourself from saying that thing or doing that thing or creating in your mind something or having an idea? Because the more you flow with these natural human creative instincts, the better you would be at channeling your own Akashic Records, because you would just flow with it. You would just go rather than kind of doubting everything that comes through. So at the beginning for me, the practice was to just say, oh, I'm seeing a blue ball. Oh, I'm seeing a radio. Now I'm seeing microphone. And it's like you would get random images, right? But you wouldn't ever really feel like they would be relevant enough to mention until you are actually in the reading and somebody goes, oh yeah, my father was a singer. His favorite symbol was always a microphone. And you're like, how was I supposed to know that? But you have to flow with the information. If you immediately block it off, like, I don't know what that is, I don't think that's what it should be, because what is a microphone doing here when someone's asking about their father? Immediately what you're going to do is you're going to block the channel. So it's about going with it, trusting the information, and also trusting your own ability, your own instincts. Like, I'm getting this for a reason. You know, at the beginning when I was starting, our teacher would tell us a lot, like, don't block the channel. What do you see? And she would ask questions like, when we would first start, like, reading each other, you know, between students, we would ask questions like, I don't know, I need to know where I am in my life. And one of the students asked me this, and I literally got an image of her sitting at her desk from above. And I was like, I'm seeing this image, and it's you sitting down in your desk. And I thought I was ridiculous for looking at that, because I was also on Zoom with her. So I was like, this is weird. Like, I'm already seeing her, so I'm probably making this image of her in my head because I can see her place, right? And immediately our teacher says, they're being funny. The guides are being funny. No, ask them where she is in life. And I didn't know whether to laugh or be like, what? But immediately I understood that it's very literal. Whatever you ask there, like whatever you say is what they're going to answer. So I was literally asking, where is she now? And they were showing me her, right? And she was like, they're being funny. And they do. They are funny. They have a sense of humor, which is one of the things that I've found to be most funny throughout the years of working with my own Akashic Records. It's that they will make jokes every once in a while. And they will tell you things in a very kind of like literal Sheldon from Big Bang Theory type of funny. I think I would describe their funny kind of being like that. They think they're funny, but they're kind of very literal and almost a little bit autistic in their way of making jokes, I guess. But yeah, I would definitely say that information comes there as you receive it. And it's about not blocking it. It's about not doubting it so much and just allowing it to show up. And this has taught me so much throughout my life about just flowing with things, just receiving it and and not doubting it so much, and not taking myself so seriously, which I do sometimes. I still do so much, but I still find it a very comforting lesson to just be very curious with whatever pops up and be like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting that, you know? And especially during those first 30 days, I got a bunch of weird channelings that I was just so not sure about, you know, from my guides, from beings from other planet. And then I read my cat, and I read my garden, and it turns out that my garden wasn't really just my garden, it was the earth, and I ended up channeling the earth. So there was so many things about channeling that at the beginning felt funny and silly, but it opened up the curiosity door for me. It was playful. Like, let's just play with it. Like, if I can talk to my garden and kind of read its Akashic Records, what am I going to find out about it? The way that it was just kind of playful at the beginning allowed for such experimentation that it opened the doors of more things, because I was just allowing it to come through. I wasn't really doubting whether it was real or not. It was just, let me play with this. What is this, right? And there was so many confirmations. I once, when I was barely started asking things like, how can I know that this is real? And they just said, your front door is open. And I went through my window and I looked and I was like, no, it's closed. And they said, no, it's unlocked. And in Mexico, we have like the first door of the house, and then the second one is a locked gate. So when she said that, I was like, the gate is not supposed to be unlocked, because it was 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, okay. And I went downstairs. I opened the door, the front door. I go to the gate and I open it. It's unlocked. And I'm like, what? I just locked it. And I went, thanks. So it was one of those first few things that started making me super curious to be like, I wonder what else is real here. I wonder what else is something that is up for grabs and I can digest and feel and learn. So I think that was one of the first few things that I noticed. Last but not least, what I wanted to tell you here was that the Akashic Records allowed me to have more clarity and congruency with my life. If you haven't seen the past video, I would invite you to watch it, but it allowed me to go through my dark night of the soul and have much more ability to call myself on my own bullshit and to align myself with what I really wanted by speaking with my guides through my Akashic Records, which has really been the thing that I would say has been the most helpful. It's been a way to have a roadmap and say, this is what I want. How am I aligning with that roadmap, and how am I not? How can I do better? But what was amazing was to have something that I could hold on to and say, this is not the way that I want my life to go. What do I need to do? How can I change it? And asking that throughout my roadmap and throughout every decision that I was making, when I realized that I could, really started to put me in the right places with the right people. And just the ability to ask whatever I want whenever it's that I have doubts and I have all these discomforts, I will just be like, what is going on here? And I'll tap in and be like, all right, what do I need to learn from this situation or this person? Because this is really like bothering me. And it can just be a way to have a connection to yourself, to what you somehow knew was there. And that's one of the most frequent things that people will tell me. All of the things that you told me are things that I kind of guessed about myself, that I kind of felt like was there, but I could never really put a name to it, or I didn't really know about. And it empowered them to just be able to know that what they felt within themselves was always there. It wasn't made up. It wasn't wrong. And it connects you to your intuition when you know stuff like that. When you're like, I knew this, I knew that person was bad for me, or I knew I should have done more of this and I should have gone down this path, or I can go down this path. And it just proves there own intuition to themselves. I've had people be scared because they don't know if their guides are going to scold them. And the first thing that I would say to that is that your guides love you so much that they will always show up with the love and compassion that you need when you need it. So if you're down, they're not going to kick you. And even when you're up, they're not going to kick you, but they're always going to speak to you with the truth. And it's why I love it so much. It's the truth that you deserve, but it's also the truth that we would wish the people in our lives would speak to us with. No bullshit. No filter. Tell me what is wrong. What do you need? What can I do better? If we had much more of that honesty in our daily lives, there would be so much less noise and incongruency with whatever that we are doing in our daily lives. So for me, the biggest relief has been to know that if I'm asking a question, I'm expecting the truth, and I'm expecting it in a way that I can do something about it, that I can grow from it. And the most important thing that I haven't mentioned until now is the love that you feel when you're in that space. You feel like you are returning to God, frequency to source. You feel like you've come home. It feels how people describe sometimes the near-death experiences where they kind of feel like they go to this space that feels very welcoming and almost like you could stay in that frequency forever. And whenever I'll be reading someone's records, it just feels like that peaceful place, no matter what is being talked about. So I've had people that are trying to connect with loved ones, and they're trying to find out if they're in a safe space, if they're at peace. And it can be a very maybe sad and dense topic, but you will still feel that presence of love through the connection and through what they're saying and through the way that they talk about whatever it is that the topic may be, as uncomfortable as it may be. And this is also something I haven't mentioned, but I will often cry and feel moved when the information is touching that person's nerve. So if it makes them sensitive, the most likely response I will have to it is to feel as they are feeling, as sensitive or moved as they are feeling, because in that moment I'm picking up on that energy and I'm reading it. So it's truly just amazing how much support there is in that space, and the frequency, you can't pretend, you can't invent it. The level of peace and love and just all-encompassing support that you feel when you are in there, it's pretty comforting. It's comforting to know that you're not alone. It's comforting to know that you have that support all the time. We're just not aware of it. We're just not in contact with it. And I think that has been another thing that's been very moving for me, to know that that is always there. It's not ever gone. It's just being humans. We forget about that. We forget that there's that connection, that love, that all-encompassing frequency of everything that you are is worth it, and we are here for you, and we support you, and you're doing well, and here's how you can do better. And it just feels like that frequency of support. So I'm gonna leave it here for this episode, guys. If you want to find out some of my most I would say crazy stories and interesting stories, I'm gonna leave that, I would say, gossip and that tea for the next episode. This one's already long enough as it is. I just wanted to come on here and say that the Akashic Records have much more expansion to offer you. If you are willing and able to delve into your own, or if you're interested in delving into your own by yourself with somebody else, it doesn't matter. It's just a space that allows for that evolution. And if in any way you are ready to try it, you are seeking, you are curious, and you want to find out, this is why I created this channel, because I'm going to be channeling on here, and I'm going to be trans-channeling the Akashic Records, and hopefully we get a lot of useful information from the things that I think are either right now happening in our world or just in our consciousness field. But if there's anything that you'd like to know, let me know. Ask me down below if there's something that you want to find out about it, because I think there's so much more than I could have expressed just in this video. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.